In this video, you will learn how to divide multiples of 10 mentally and how to estimate a division problem by rounding. So beginning with our first objective, we will start with dividing by multiples of 10. So to illustrate this, let's start off with a division problem that you should know, and that is 63 divided by 9. Well, 63 divided by 9 is 7. But what if we extended this so we put a 0 at the end of 63 and get 630 divided by 9? Well, what we do is because we put a 0 here after 63, now we need to put a 0 after the 7, and that would give you 70. Well, what if you put another 0 after 63? So now we have 6,300 divided by 9. Well, again, we added 2 zeros after the 63, so we need 2 zeros after the 7 to get 700. We can keep this going. If we had 63,000 divided by 9, we now have 3 zeros after 63, so your answer requires 3 zeros, which would give you 7,000. So this illustrates kind of the process here that we can use, and that is we can divide the non-zero numbers together. That is step 1. And then step 2 is put the proper number of zeros at the end. So what does that look like in some other examples? All right, so here we have 45,000 divided by 9. So again, step 1 is divide the non-zero numbers together. So that would be the 45 and the 9. So we do 45 divided by 9, that would give you 5. And then we put the proper number of zeros at the end, which is 3, because we see 3 zeros right here. So we put 3 zeros after the 5, and that gives you 5,000 as your answer. Here's another example, and feel free to try this one on your own. But here we have 6,000 divided by 3. All right, so again, your first step is to divide the non-zero numbers. So that would be the 6 and the 3. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. And then we add the proper number of zeros. Here we see 3 zeros. So we put 3 zeros at the end, and that gives you 2,000 as your solution. Let's try another example. Here we have 800 divided by 4. So again, first off, we divide the non-zero numbers together. And that would be the 8 and the 4. So we divide 8 by 4, that gives you 2, and then add the proper number of zeros. Here we see 2 zeros, so we put 2 zeros at the end of our answer, and that gives you 200 as your solution. Let's try another example. Here we have 1,200 divided by 2. So again, divide the non-zero numbers together. So that would be the 12 and the 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6. And then we need to put the proper number of zeros at the end. So we look here, and there's 2 zeros. So we put 2 zeros after the 6, and that gives you 600 as the solution. So now that we've learned how to divide by multiples of 10, we're going to use this to learn how to estimate. So we're going to estimate by rounding. And our first example is 4,720 divided by 4. So when you're doing this, what you want to do is you want to look for compatible numbers. What we mean by that is if you look here at the 47 and the 4. Okay, we can't do 47 divided by 4 without having a remainder, but we could do 48 divided by 4, right? It's really close to 48. So what you can do is you can round the 4,720 to 48 and then put zeros here at the end, and that would give you 4,800 divided by 4. Because now what we can do is use the process of that mental division, where we can do the 48 divided by 4, that gives you 12, and then you put the proper number of zeros at the end, and that would be 2 zeros. So your estimated answer would be 1,200. And by the way, don't forget that little symbol right here. It's a squiggly equal sign. That symbol means approximately. So approximately or close to that number. All right, and if you were to actually divide that problem out, 4,720 divided by 4, the actual answer would be 1,180. So notice that is pretty close to the actual answer. Let's take a look at another example. Here we have 6,427 divided by 7. So again, what we can do is we can look at the 64 and the 7 and see if we can divide that. And we can't, right? It's going to give you a remainder. But what you could do is 63 divided by 7. Because 63 divided by 7 is 9, right? So you could put a 63 here and then put 2 zeros at the end. And that would give you a problem that we can do. We can do 6,300 divided by 7. So doing that one, we do 63 divided by 7. That gives you 9. And then you put 2 zeros at the end, because we have 2 zeros there in the problem, and that gives you 900. So your approximated answer would be 900. That is your estimate. And then your actual answer, if you were to divide, is 918. So notice that your estimate is pretty close to the actual answer. Let's take a look at another example. Here we have 35,289 divided by 9. And again, when you are rounding, we can round this big number by looking at the 35. So you're looking for compatible numbers. So you look at the 35 and the 9, and you try to figure out what can we divide that's close to 35 divided by 9. Because you can't do 35 divided by 9 without a remainder. But you could do 36 divided by 9, because 4 times 9 is 36. So you could put a 36 here and then follow it with zeros. And we can round, or we can estimate by rounding to 36,000. So you do 36,000 divided by 9. And 36 divided by 9 is 4. And then we can add 3 zeros at the end of your answer. And that would give you 4,000. So your estimate is 4,000. And if you were to divide the actual numbers, you would get 3,921. So again, notice that your estimate is pretty close to the actual answer. Let's try one more. Here we have 130,624 divided by 4. So again, what we're trying to do is we take the first two numbers in this case and look at that and the 4. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to find compatible numbers. So 13 divided by 4 you can't do without getting a remainder, but you could do 12 divided by 4. And 12 divided by 4 is 3, so that works, right? So put a 12 there and then follow it with zeros. So we can round the 130,624 to 120,000. And then we can do 12 divided by 4. That would give you a 3. And then there's 4 zeros at the end. So you put 4 zeros over here. And my comma was in the wrong spot. It's going to be right there. So your answer, your estimate, is going to be 30,000. Whereas the actual answer, if you were to divide out, it would be 32,656. So again, notice that your estimate is pretty close to the actual answer. And that concludes our lesson for today. We will see you next time.